You know, we're reaching that point in our scriptures now where it's kind of like that easygoing mode. You know, Jesus is now kind of just opening up and starting to do his thing. He's starting to teach and he's starting to share the word even further than just a few people. And I say that because there's so many rich things that are given to us, but so often they just become like matter of fact to us. We're now going to be hearing, for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be hearing 7 different parables. This week, the single parable, and then 3 next week, 3 the following week. And then we're going to wrap it up with the feeding of the 5,000. In all of these scriptures, there is some richness in there that I hope you can tap into. And so my encouragement to all of you over the next couple of weeks is to take the readings. Obviously, this week you're going to have to do it in reverse because we already read the readings. Take the readings before coming to Mass and spend some time with them. Read them and do what's called a Lectio Divina, going through them not once, not twice, but 3 times, and just ponder it. If you've never done Lectio Divina, you can easily look up what the technique is and what you should be doing on each pass through the scriptures. But as you pass through, hopefully by the 3rd time, something specifically in it is speaking to your heart and enlightening you and opening up your eyes in a way that maybe they needed to be opened. And so I encourage you, because I love doing that with the scriptures. The scriptures weren't meant to be just words that we hear and go, oh yeah, okay, I've heard that story before, great. No, they're supposed to be something that takes life within us, that sets us on fire, if you will. And so I've loved doing the Bible in a year with Father Mike because it's all in continuity. See, one of the problems that we have sometimes is we skip a lot on Sundays. There's large sections of the scriptures that are skipped. And so maybe taking the gospel, when you look at it and say, all right, what's missing here? And go back and see it in context. But the scriptures should be rich things in our lives. That being said, we're starting a new series called With Eyes Wide Open. With eyes wide open. See, God is very active in our lives. God is very active in doing so many things. God is around us at all times. God is lavishly throwing his grace around. He's spreading the seed of his word in our lives. And yet often we miss it. Often we're not seeing his activity. I have so many people that would come up to me at times and say different things like, you know, like God isn't speaking to me. I've been praying and praying and praying and I get no response. And that's when I say to them, no, he's responding, you're not hearing it. God is always answering. He may not be answering with the words that I want to hear, but he's answering, trust me. He's never going to let your prayer go unanswered. And that's why, especially like even the first reading, Isaiah speaks about the generosity of God, how God is pouring out his grace at all times, how God is pouring it down like rain, that God is trying to make you fruitful. So too in the gospel. I know that there was a lot that Jesus said there, but if you spend time with it, you'll see what he's actually saying is we've all got something going on. We've all got something in our lives. I haven't met a person yet that isn't distracted by the things of their life. There's so much things, you know, and it could go through a whole plethora of things. But suffice it to say that the world, as Jesus kind of points out, the world can sometimes interfere with your spiritual journey. The worldly things, the things of this life can sometimes interfere with your spiritual journey. And that's why these parables are so wonderful, because what they're asking us to do is to see and pierce through what's all around us. Today's gospel is wonderful. This parable of the sower. Today's gospel reminds each one of us that there are probably things in our lives that are preventing God's grace, God's seed, from getting into the soil of our hearts and into our lives. What are those things? There could be so many things. It could be a habitual sin that we just can't seem to break. It can be that sin that just consumes us, as we say in some of the funeral liturgies, that sin that clings to our hearts, that clings to our lives. And there's so many examples. Just take any of the commandments and you can see what that sin might be. What are the things that cling to me? What are the things that would be like that rocky ground? It's making me shallow. It's making me, one that can't really let the seed sink in. Or what are the things outside of me? What are the people that I'm always annoyed at? I know that none of you ever do this, but I've seen people in cars, and I might even once in a while fall prey to it, of disagreeing with someone else's driving choice, we'll say it that way. Those are things that can produce the thorns. How the devil wants to come and steal away our peace, steal away our joy. And he does it in very subtle ways. And we're going to hear that a lot more directly next week in the parables that we hear next week. Suffice it to say, there are so many things that can just strangle us. And these are just like you ask any pastor, you ask any priest, when someone is going through a big reversion or a conversion and they come and they're on fire and they want to do everything all at once. And what's the pastor's job? Slow down. Slow it down. If there's seed falling on good ground, it will take root and it will happen. You don't have to do it all at once. Sometimes they come on fire, but again, like the seed that gets eaten up by the birds, it was there, but it disappears. So we have to go slowly in our faith journey. We have to kind of measure it out. That's why we need to walk with eyes wide open. See, the one thing about this parable that kind of always I disagreed with a little bit, the different types of soil are the types they are. Jesus isn't saying that soil can change, but you can. You can. You can cultivate the soil of your life. You can cultivate the soil of your heart by the way you pray, by the way you spend time with Scripture, by the way you look at things in different ways, by walking with eyes wide open, seeing what God sees, seeing how God sees, and then cultivating that soil to make it a rich soil so that the seed can fall and take root. God is lavish. God is going to keep sowing those seeds. God is going to keep bestowing his blessings upon you. That's not going to stop. But with all of those other things, sometimes we just don't see it happening. We get so entrenched and so caught up. And so keep in mind that you do have that freedom, that ability to cultivate your soil. No matter what you're going through right now, be honest about it. Be honest. If you're one of those types of soil that is just preventing God's seed from taking root, cultivate it. Spend a little more time meditating on the Scriptures and praying and looking at God with eyes wide open. One of the things I think that's important, and I do this all the time in my own prayer life, as you pray this week each night, stop asking God for what you want. Just stop that. That's a one-way conversation a lot of times. God, I need $1 million. Get it for me. And when God doesn't answer, we get frustrated. Why? Because he hasn't given you $1 million. But if he does give you $1 million, remember, 10% to the church. Just going. But start to pray and ask God, God, open my eyes so I can see what you are really doing in my life. Help me to see what you're already providing for me. Help me to see the blessings that I'm missing. Help me to slow down a little bit and to look with eyes wide open at what you're already doing in my life. God is always active. God is always sowing. God is always giving. God is always lavishing. And yet so often we're frustrated because we're not seeing it. Jesus makes it very clear. People have eyes, but they don't see. People have ears, but they don't hear. In these next few weeks, we're going to try to open that up a little better. Every Catholic should be doing that, looking with eyes wide open, looking at the activity of God in this world, how God is lavishing on us the grace and the gift, how God has forgiven us and brought us to himself, and the love that he wants to pour into our hearts. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, we need to have a fruitful harvest. And that fruitful harvest will only come when the soil of our lives is cleared and turned up and ready to receive. That means it requires effort on our part. I think so many people think that faith is just something that happens to us, that I believe in Jesus Christ, therefore I'm good. No, I've got to cultivate that faith, and I've got to work on that faith, and I've got to pray, and I've got to spend every day, I've got to spend time with eyes wide open, looking for God and seeing God and acting for God, rather than trying to get God to act for me. And so this week, my dear brothers and sisters, pray a little bit more. Spend a little bit more time praying over the Scriptures. Take next week's readings and look at them a little bit more carefully and pass through them once, twice, 3 times, each time looking at it a little differently and looking for the words that are speaking to you. I always find whenever I do Lectio Divina, usually it's the second pass through that a line screams at me. Look at me, pray with me, stick with me. When that happens, pause on that piece of Scripture and read it again. pause on that line and say, Lord, what are you trying to say? And once you recognize that, go through the third time looking for that theme. And you'll watch, the seeds will start to sprout and they'll start to grow in your life. Things will start to change and you'll be able to see things in a whole different way. You'll be able to hear his word in a whole different way. That's my encouragement to you during these months, especially when Jesus is trying to form our hearts and form our lives and prepare us for the mission that he's going to send us on, which we're already engaged in. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, I'll pray for you this week. I ask you to pray for me. Pray that we all can experience the activity of God in our lives, see the activity of God in our lives, and bear rich fruit for the kingdom by bringing souls to Jesus Christ. God bless you.